Honestly, from talking to Oliver and Cruz extensively before the merger, I really didn't expect anything from your guys. However, I wasn't as confident in my own. I hear that. My men are grateful for honest work, even if it is for a Collier. We both laughed, knowing it was true. We said goodbye, and I got in my truck and headed over to my side of the tracks, reflecting on exactly how I'd gotten myself into this position to begin with. Larken Pack didn't exist when I was born. I was a young child when Jedediah had caused a split in the pack. He had rebuked Thomas's father, who was Alpha at the time, and left, taking a few families with them. Mine had been one. My parents had thought they were right. Jedediah was charismatic and talked a good game. He was also a distant relative to my father. Years later, they realized they had been wrong to follow him. He had taken his savings and bought a trailer park just across the railroad tracks from Collier land. In some sick way, I think he just wanted to shove it in Zach Collier's face that he had his wolves, and they were living in squalor right under their old Alpha's nose. Mom and Dad weren't bad people, but by the time I'd hit my teen years, they were broken beyond repair. It was them, me, and 6 siblings living in one tiny 3-bedroom trailer. I will never forget the night it all happened. I had been out to a party with some of the local humans, even lost my virginity that night. It was pouring down rain, but I was drunk and high on life when I came home to find the place reeking of gas. I covered my face and ran inside. They had all looked so peaceful sitting around the family room, seemingly asleep. The gas stove in the kitchen was turned on, all 4 burners in the oven. Nothing was lit, letting the gas seep in and slowly kill them all. I remembered standing there in the kitchen, with the rain dripping down on me from the worn, leaky roof, and wondering if I should stay and join them or go get help. I couldn't call the human authorities for help, because I was drunk and feared I would get in trouble. I didn't know what to do. But eventually my flight mechanism kicked in and I ran through the mud to Jedediah's trailer a few houses down. I banged on the door until he finally answered. That night was one of the first times I ever saw Jedediah with emotions other than anger. He'd taken care of everything, and I'd lived with him until I graduated high school. My parents had left me a note the night they died confirming it had been no accident. My dad had been out of work, and they saw no future. Knowing I would be too stubborn and strong, that I would stop them, made them do it when they knew I would be away from the house. They hadn't wanted to burden me with my younger siblings and begged me to get away from the pack and start a new life somewhere else. It had taken me years to forgive them. I couldn't help but feel they had been selfish for murdering my sisters and brothers alongside them. We would have been fine. I had seen others in the pack raising their siblings. I would have done the same. Instead, they left me alone in a cruel world where it was all I could do to survive. In so many ways, I felt like I was still doing that, surviving. I never wanted to be Alpha. Others perceived me as Jedediah's pawn and future heir, but that was a false perception. He wasn't grooming me to take over. He pitied me, and maybe felt the smallest bit of guilt over the deaths of my family. He never officially named me heir, and I would have put my money on several others ahead of me for the position. In the end, only one stepped up upon Jed's death. I couldn't stand by and see my pack under his dictatorship. The guy was nothing more than a punk with a chip on his shoulder, and we had already endured enough under Jedediah's reign. I stepped up with only one challenger. He was an easy defeat, though I loathed killing anyone, especially a packmate. I felt the familiar melancholy set in as I pulled up in front of my trailer. It was the biggest and best the pack had to offer, but it was hard not to remember the days of my teenage years living there with the former Alpha. I took a deep breath as I exited the vehicle. It was all mine now, all of it, including the responsibility of my wolves. Before I even reached my door, Winnie Maverick was running across from her own trailer, waving her hand in the air. "Alpha! I'm so glad you're home. I have to ask again, is there any word?" I knew she was asking about the transition of primary and middle grade children attending school in Collier instead of their current school amongst the human kids. Her boy had been one of the 2 problem tweens I'd warned Thomas about. He was on the verge of being expelled, and his mother believed somehow a new school would fix all their problems. For both our sakes, I hoped she was right.